Welcome back to Mondays on Montlake. I'm your host, Montlake Miguel. And last week we kind of went over what the spring game looked like, how we felt following the spring game, and then we took a kind of post-spring look at the offense. Today, we're going to pick up right where we left off because we didn't look at the defense, and today we are looking at the defense. Man, after the spring, I feel like with Ryan Walters' defense, we've been pretty blessed, even in year one with him, to know what we're getting and when we're getting it because he brought a lot of different kinds of pressure, showed a lot of different kinds of looks. And through recruiting and the transfer portal, he was able to get a lot of guys to kind of fit and plug holes that maybe dealt with injury last year, or maybe guys just weren't as good as maybe the new guys are that are coming in. So let's take a look at this Washington Huskies defense because I have a feeling it's going to be a sleeper defense, like top 3 to top 5 in the Big Ten. Not just because of talent, but also because the scheme might actually just be the star of this. So we know Ryan Walters shows lots of different fronts. We know he likes to bring lots of different pressures, use stunts, overload certain sides of the box or certain sides of the box to get mismatches. What players are we going to have to come in and do this? So let's take a look at the defensive line room. We'll start with the interior and then move to the edges. And there is going to be some guys who kind of switch and play a little bit of both. So the first guy that I think we all know is kind of written in as kind of a starter, and we're hoping takes that next step to being a star, is Elenius Davis. His ability to communicate, his ability to sniff stuff out, his recognition is great. His instincts are amazing, and he's strong. He's strong as a bull. This guy doesn't get pushed around very easily, and I think he's going to make a big statement here in the Big Ten, and I think you can see him playing that outside defensive tackle, or you could even see him playing the nose guard because he's that versatile. I think you're going to probably see him more that almost like that 3 to 5 technique guy that we see forcing pressure on the guards. And I think he's going to do that well, especially with another year in the system, another year in the strength and conditioning system as well. I think he's going to be tough to deal with. After Elenius Davis, we have lots of different guys. I think one of the guys that might slide in quick is going to be transfer Kai McClendon, who comes in from Mississippi State. He's got good size. He's around 6'2", in that anywhere from that 305 to 315 range, depending on where he comes in to fall camp. But he's a guy that I think is another one of those guys that's kind of is proven. I think he's a guy that's going to step in immediately and play a lot, assuming that he comes in healthy. Now, some of the other guys that came in and played really well during spring, though, and I think are making a real case towards playing a lot of defensive tackle. The first guy I'm going to bring is freshman Derek Coleman Brusa, who, when we recruited him, he's, every bit of 6'5". And when I say every bit of 6'5", I'm not lying. But he bulked up from 265 to 295 by camp. And he was running with the ones all of spring camp. And you saw all the power and everything that you were hoping to see from this guy as such a highly touted recruit. He was the number 1 recruit in Washington State. And, Jed was able to reel him in, or Ryan Walters was able to reel him in, maybe even Kafusi, who knows who was the actual, guy to reel him in. But he looks every bit like he's going to be an 18-year-old that can hold his own here in the Big Ten. And as we saw during the spring, he's got the power and the ability to do it. He's probably not going to play nose, and you might see him slide outside and play some edge because that's what he played in high school. So he does have the pass rushing ability, and who knows how Ryan Walters might want to use him. Now, one of the transfers that really stood out to me was Deshaun Watts. Now, Deshaun Watts, if you see him, he is literally built like a stump. He's, 6'2", 320 pounds, and now he's a short 6'2" if he's 6'2". He transferred from Sacramento State, and the guy just made plays all the spring. I have in my notes somewhere where he made 3 tackles for a loss. It was against the second team, but 3 tackles for a loss on 3 consecutive plays. And it was during 11 on 11 drills, but he just constantly stuck out. And I mean, he's going to be good at plugging up the middle, taking up two blockers. He disrupts a lot. He's able to get to the passer or get to the passer as a pass rusher as well. I'm not saying he's going to have 5 or 6 sacks, but if he has 3 or 4, I wouldn't be surprised because he wreaks that much havoc. And the biggest thing is he was really, really, really consistent all of spring. So I'm really excited about Deshaun Watts. Now, as we kind of move down, um, you had we had another transfer come in from Ball State named Darren Connolly. Now, Darren Connolly, I actually was really impressed with him. He's about 6'3", 285 pounds. So he's your more athletic D tackle. And when he came into camp, I thought maybe stepping up might be a little much for him, but it wasn't. I thought he played a lot and he played well when he did play. Um, he's a guy that was a lot stronger at the point of attack than I thought he was going to be. I really like his number. He wears 33. I wore 33 in high school. So I'm excited about him. And then T.I. Umakais, man, he's a true freshman, but he's a big, big boy. And he played a lot. He was one of those guys that you saw. I saw him a little bit with the ones, but he ran mostly with the twos. But you could see him flash. You could see he's going to be a guy that plugs up the middle. He's a big boy. And we added just so much more beef across the defensive line that when we do end up going against these Big Ten teams, we're not going to be stuck with a bunch of undersized guys trying to go up against these 320-pound offensive linemen from the Big Ten. We're not going to get pushed around like we did the previous year. And I don't even think we got pushed around that much last year, but I'm talking about some of those guys that might not have been up to the task. I think we have the guys in here right now. And don't forget about Omar Khan. He played a lot. He still looks like he's going to be a big part of this rotation. And I'm excited to see what he brings if he's taking that next step. Few of these guys are going to play a little bit of inside and out. I think Derek Coleman Bruce is going to be one of those guys. I also think guys like J.D. Hill, when he gets in, the big 4-star recruit, is going to be another one of them. He's got the big long arms. He's 280 some odd pounds, 6'2", 6'3". He's going to be one of those guys that I think will be able to play some edge and maybe slide in and play a little bit of defensive tackle. But your guys that are going to be your straight up edges on this team, this room, I don't want to say it has me worried, but it does have me a little bit worried. Just because we don't have a lot of real proven pass rushers. Now, Jacob Lane has been solid. Last year, he was good. Very good at setting the edge, very good against the run, and he was decent at putting pressure on quarterbacks. Do I think he's a 10-sack guy? No. Isaiah Ward, on the other hand, I think has the speed to be able to really get in there and make some plays for that defense. The biggest thing when it comes to Isaiah Ward is he going to stay healthy? When he's healthy, he's a really good speed rusher, and I even saw him giving the true freshman Green problems with his speed. So I think he could play well, and him with a guy like Deuce Davis, who we've only seen him for a really small sample size in 2 years, but in the 3 games he played, he had 3 sacks, and he's explosive. If he can come in and stay healthy, guys like him and Isaiah Ward, I think, are really big time when it comes to rushing the passer on those third down, especially third down and long situations when you got to get pressure on the quarterback. Now, I think we have a couple other guys that I'm curious to see how they do. Devin Hyde is a guy that everybody that was leaving UW last year, offensive lineman, all that said, if you're going to look out for anybody to make a splash this year, Devin Hyde is going to be that guy. And he flashed some during the spring. What we're looking for out of Devin Hyde is more consistency because he sure does have the size and the motor to be one of those guys. But we want to see it more and more often. Same thing with Logan George. Now, Logan George didn't play a ton during the spring. And when I saw him, I'll be honest, he was a little bit smaller than I thought he was going to be. But I'm hoping his size is what he is. He weighs 260 pounds. And he's transfer from Ohio State. I want to see him be able to get in and really be able to set the edge. And maybe even a guy like Hayden Moore get some run because we don't have one of those big time sack masters. Don't be surprised if you don't see what you saw last year, where guys like ZRS or X-Ray Alexander come down and play some edge because they can rush off the edge and they have that speed. And we saw a bunch of that during the spring where they would go from playing their middle linebacker position. And when he shows the 5-man front, one of those guys comes up and plays that edge. And, he rushes the passer and he's able to get there. And I think both X-Ray and ZRS have the ability to do that. They're both really, really fast, and they're both big enough to set an edge if they have to. They're both, around that 235, 240 mark, and they'll be able to set that edge if necessary. On the edge, Ramzak Furian is going to be one of those guys who's going to be on the field. They brought him in as a middle linebacker, but they played him a lot at edge, and his ability to get after the quarterback is amazing. When you sit and you see him on the field, he's really, really, really big, like tall, and he looks the part. I mean, they say he's kind of light, but the dude looked every bit of like 230, 240 when I was standing on the field. He might not have been, but that's what it looked like to me. Now, so that's kind of where we're looking at with the edges. I'm optimistic about it because a guy like JD Hill, I think, can also come in and play that edge as well, and he's a little bit bigger of a body, but we have to see it because it's very, very much unproven right now. And until it is proven, it is all just a hope and a theory at that point. So to say the edge might be the position on the defense that I'm the most worried about, I think it's safe to say that until we see them actually start producing. Now, one of the strongest position groups on the whole defense, I think, is going to be this inside linebacker room. I think you have 4 guys that are starting quality Big Ten linebackers and can play at a high level. That's X-Ray Alexander, Jacob Manu, ZRS, Zadrius Rainey-Sale, and Tariq Al-Aghdad, Buddha. Those 4 guys, I don't know how they're going to keep them all on the field because they all have different strengths and do different things well. I think personally, I like ZRS and X-Ray. I like their size against these Big Ten guys. But Manu, last year, as soon as he got into the defense, he started making a difference. He was really big with the run blitzes and being able to just cause disruption. Even if he didn't make the play, he was able to disrupt the play and somebody else was able to make it. And then Tariq Al-Aghdad, until he got hurt, man, I thought he was great in coverage. I thought he did well against the run. He's a little bit smaller of a linebacker, but he's very much sideline to sideline, and he's hungry. And I don't see him not being on the field and playing a lot this year. So that room, when you're looking at it, all of those guys can do pretty much everything and do everything pretty well. If I was to give them, say, my Madden rankings, I would say that X-Ray is probably like an 84. Manu's like an 82. ZRS is like an 83, who's got the ability to be like an 87. And Tariq Al-Aghdad probably right there in that 83, 84 area. And I'll tell you what, if I was playing Madden, those would be rankings that would make me be like, okay, you know what? We have a good linebacker room. You also have guys like Donovan Robinson, who has the same kind of skill set. He's a little bit less polished, but he's a guy that I think could play all the inside positions, and I think you could also line him up at edge and let him come after the quarterback. He had a great pick 6 in the spring game, and I think it really kind of stuck out that his athleticism isn't going to be like something you don't notice. Tokyo also, I thought, played really well. He's got good size, and when you watch him play, you know that he can do some things. Let's take a look at this secondary. This secondary is, I think people are underestimating how good the secondary is going to be. I think when I've watched the pundits and people talk about Washington that aren't UW media, they underrate what we have in this secondary. Now, I'm going to start with the nickel just because I think might be our best corner right now, our best defensive back right now might be Rahshawn Clark. He didn't play a lot in the spring. He was in the gold jersey. He went through drills, but he didn't do contact. He's got a hurt shoulder that he's coming back from. But he reminds me of like an Asante Samuel. His ability to jump routes, his ability to play man-to-man coverage, his ability to lock a guy down, I think is just going to get better and better. He did great as a freshman. Now, as a sophomore, and really kind of like being able to dig in this year, if he gets 4 or 5 interceptions, I won't be surprised. Also, Raheem Wright, I thought played really well during the spring in Rahshawn Clark's absence, especially during the team drills where they were doing hitting. I really like what he brings to the table as a nickel, and I like what he brings as a safety. He's got a nose for the ball. He's got good angles. I saw him run with the ones, and it seems like the staff really, really trusts him. I think you could see other guys like Minky possibly come and play some of that nickel. Don't be surprised if you see Gavin Day playing a little closer to the line of scrimmage. Man, the kid is good, and we're going to get into Gavin Day a little bit too. So those are guys that I think could also play in the slot. I think part of the strength of what we have in the secondary, especially when we're looking at our corners, is the size that is coming. Now, Dylan Robinson got baptized by fire last year, and he did really damn well. He had a couple blown assignments, but what do you expect out of a true freshman? But him being every bit of 6'3", 215 pounds, and being able to cover and lock down the opposing team's number one, I think he'll be able to do it because when you look at him, he just looks like an NFL-ready corner. And we saw during the spring, he had the pick during the spring game, and on special teams, he was able to recover the touchdown. He's an aware player that can play both zone and man, and he's that guy that's going to lock down their number one. The guy playing on opposite him, who I think is going to start now, I think you have a couple guys that I think can play over there, but Emmanuel Carnley, the transfer from Virginia, he has decent length. He's not 6'3" like was sold to us. He's more like 6'1", but he's a dog. He goes after. He likes to mix it up. And when I saw him during the spring, most of the reps he was getting was with the ones, and he was mixing it up with all the wide receivers. He didn't seem to care. Nothing seemed to be too big for him, and he's bringing that experience playing Power 5 football to this defense, especially when we don't have a lot of experience in the secondary, especially at corner. Now, besides those two who I think are going to be your starting outside corners, you also have Elias Johnson, who, when Carnley went down because he got a little banged up during part of the end of spring, I thought Elias Johnson stepped in and played really well. He's another one of those guys that's 6'2". He's got good length. He's about 185 pounds, so he's a little light. But, man, I think he's got a good nose for the ball. He's good at high pointing, and I think his size will allow him to not get bullied by bigger Big Ten wide receivers. Besides that, you also have Ramon Adams Jr., who he played a lot of nickel, and I think you're going to see him in nickel. I think he's another guy that, man, these guys keep stepping up, and you keep seeing them flash during the spring. And I thought Ramon Adams did a lot of that during the spring, and I think you're definitely going to see him in that rotation. Besides that, you have a couple of the freshmen coming in. So Jaron Jones, who played a lot during the spring, and he looked good. Like, he's a guy that I think is gonna play. I think a lot of these guys that we kept bringing in and talking about, like I keep watching them play and watching them compete. They didn't look, especially Jaron Jones, didn't look overwhelmed. It didn't look like playing against the guys that he was playing against was too much for him. And as a result, I think you're going to see him sneak on the field. On top of him, because I think you have a few freshmen who are going to get. Elijah Durr, I thought, played pretty damn well. He was able to mix it up, and he's got good size at 6'1". But the guy that I think that's going to come in here and possibly really push for playing time is true freshman Rashawn Duncan. He's 6'1", 6'2", and he's right around that 190-pound mark. And who knows what he's going to come in. He's going to come into camp as. But he's a dog coming out of Oakland, California. He's one of these guys that I think when he gets on the field this spring, it might be like it was with Dylan Robinson, where he hopscotches a lot of guys just because he brings that much to the table as a corner. So that's kind of the breakdown of the corners. That's what I'm seeing. I think Robinson and Carnley are your ones and twos, even though I think you're going to see Johnson play and a couple of these freshmen. Where I think maybe the strength, the true strength of this secondary sits at is in the safety room. And you know that Ryan Walters likes to play with three safeties sometimes. And I think these safeties are good enough to where they can move into the slot if you needed them to. Rylan Dillard-Allen and Alex McLaughlin. We knew Alex McLaughlin last year played phenomenally in his first year here in Seattle, and I think that there's no way he doesn't pencil right in as a starter. And Rylan Dillard-Allen took that starting job last year, and with RDA, we'll start with him. He flashes. He's a smaller guy, but he likes to hit. But what I think we saw as far as his growth this spring is what he does on the back end in coverage. He likes to bark and chirp at people, which I really like that, getting into their heads. But he plays a good man and he plays good zone, and he's there in coverage when they need him. He's able to lock a guy down, and I didn't know if he could do that. McLaughlin, when I look at him, last year he struggled sometimes in coverage, but he also was in the right place at the right time because he made some interceptions and played well when he was in coverage. And so he was a little bit up and down in coverage, but what he brings to the run game and both of those safeties when it comes to moving up to the line of scrimmage and being able to fill in and run support, both those guys are really, really good. The next guy that I'm going to bring up is probably my pick to kind of click this fall and really push his way onto the field, and that's Gavin Day, the true freshman, 6'3", 200 pounds. And when it was the first day that I stepped out on the field, it was one of the first things that I know is, who the hell is this kid wearing 21? He's so tall and he looks built like a he doesn't look like a freshman. Who is this guy? I don't know who he is. And then you watched him play, and he's making plays in the backfield. He's able to sniff out screens and make tackles or pass breakups before they could turn into anything. He's got superstar written all over him. I don't know if that's going to happen this year, but eventually Gavin Day is going to be one of those guys. Also, Paul Menke Jr. Is another dude along with Raheem Wright, who there's no way they're keeping them off the field. It's crazy. The more I watch this defense, the more I realize Ryan Walters wants versatility everywhere, and Paul Menke is that. He's tall and lanky. I think he can play. I think he can play in the nickel. I also think that he can play both safeties. And that's how I feel about Gavin Day as well. I think all these safeties, you can really plug them in most every place, except for maybe the outside corner. And who knows, maybe some of these guys will actually be able to play that. So kind of looking and wrapping this whole thing up with a bow, when we're looking at the Washington Huskies offense, our defense, don't look at this as a weakness. I think this defense might be the strength of this team, like they were last year. They have players all over the place. If they can just figure out how to get some pressure on the quarterback, you might be looking at what these jumps are with Brian Walters in his second year. Like, if you look at the numbers, every place that he's been, whether it was Missouri or Illinois, the second year under his system, they make a significant jump in points allowed, where it might have gone, I think Illinois was like 21 to like 14 or 12 or something like that. You're going to see this same thing happen this year with this Husky defense, barring injuries, of course, because they have that kind of talent, and his scheme is the star of the show. So that's about all I got for you guys today on the Husky defense post-spring. I'm really excited about what they're going to do. My biggest concern is going to be the pass rush, and I think it's like that every single year, so I'm curious to see what these new guys bring, and then hopefully some of these guys that have been oft injured can step in and make some real big plays, and we can have a season like we did in 2023 where guys are making plays all over the place and you don't really know who they are at the start of the season. So until next week, where I actually have a little surprise for you guys next week, but I'll announce that this week coming up. You always know what it is. Same dog time, same dog channel. Go Dogs.